Assalamualaikum. Hai anu nanggro. Salam bak kamu seot berada. Waalaikumsalam Allah. Hana hai kamu meh harta yang berkado lahana tu bodro yang nak kamu bah. Salam Allah. Nahai kamu meh harta yang berkado lana tu bodohnya nak kamu mah. Sawab bisalam Nabi kun sunat cara tahu marsyarat mulia warai ranum lampuan mulia raja
The CRC is in Indonesia because the Canadian public very generously responded to first the tsunami and then the earthquake that has occurred in Indonesia. We have a significant amount of public funds demonstrating goodwill of Canadian people, and we're translating that into assistance, primarily in rebuilding communities in Aceh and in Nias. There are a number of programs that we're offering in Indonesia, but I would characterize it as with three elements. The first element is that we're providing support to those people who are living in temporary settlements. So we are providing assistance with water and sanitation and with improving current living conditions through a variety of temporary shelter supports. The second part is the longer-term recovery, and that's helping rebuild the communities, rebuild houses, rebuild community centers, and ensure that people have sustainable livelihoods because people lost their means of earning a living. And the third component of our program is related to the future. Indonesia is a region that is at great risk for a range of disasters, as we all know at this stage. And the third phase of our program is to leave the Indonesian community, particularly in Aceh and Nias, better equipped to deal with future disasters. Canadian Red Cross is a member of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. We are one of over 20 different national Red Cross societies that are an actor on the ground. We are working all through and with the Indonesian Red Cross, Palang Merah Indonesia, and in partnership with both the Federation and the IFRC.
This is an extremely large and complex operation. Our team now is over 170 people coming from 13 different countries, which reflects how multicultural Canada is. 3 of our regional offices operate in regions that were affected by a 30-year-old conflict, which ended along with the tsunami, and people are now dealing not only with the reconstruction of the tsunami, but the post-conflict process and all the adjustments in their social fabric, how to reintegrate former combatants, how to restore the sense of community that was there. Our operation here is a reflection of Canadian Red Cross values, and that we're very participatory in our approach to communities. We're very mindful of local customs and culture, very thorough in the processes to ensure that the environment is respected, that gender issues are mainstreamed.
Salam Allah. Nahai kamu meh harta yang berkado lana
Our housing programme consists of approximately 6,000 houses, and they're situated in 3 geographical areas. We have it in Aceh Bazaar near Banda Aceh in the north of Aceh province, in Aceh Jaya down the west coast of the island of Sumatra, and on the island of Nias. The programme for the shelter houses is financed by Canadian Cross and partly by CEDA, and CEDA are contributing to the Aceh Bazaar housing and to the Nias housing. The shelter programme is a large project. In Aceh Bazaar we've got approximately 1,800 houses. We started construction in May this year. We're just commencing work now in Aceh Jaya, where we've got somewhere between 2,450 houses and 2,700 houses to build. We're just at the early stages of the village planning. On the island of Nias, where we've got probably around 2,100 houses of timber construction, we're hoping that work will start early next year. In Aceh Jaya in particular, where we're relocating villages, we're working with BRR, that's the government organisation responsible for rehabilitation after the tsunami. We're working with the communities and BRR to locate new sites for these villages. This is quite a complex issue because it means buying and selling of land and dealing with generally land ownership in quite some detail. It also means we have to develop village plans along with the communities. That's not just the housing, but it's mosque, manises and so on, and help developing plans for the way forward for the new community. Because we're not here just to build houses, we're here to help build communities. Before we can start construction, we have to do detail mapping, verification of the land and beneficiaries, geotechnical surveys to ensure that we've got the right foundations. We also have to do environmental assessments which indicate the environmental issues that must be taken into account during construction and in the long term of the project. What you're seeing now are the houses under construction, but there have been many steps that have had to be taken since the tsunami. The process by which the whole thing is done is through identifying actual beneficiaries.
Ini namanya pendaftaran untuk informasi penerima bantuan untuk perumahannya gitu. Jadi masyarakat diminta untuk melengkapi nomor BPN. Nomor BPN itu untuk nomor kepemilikan tanah. Jadi untuk jelas. Jadi setelah itu nanti kami punya formulir yang mestinya harus diisi itu untuk menentukan warna rumah, warna genteng, warna pintunya, dan letak orientasi hadap rumahnya kemana gitu. Jadi itu ditandatangani oleh pemilik tanah, karena kan kadang-kadang kita punya beneficiary, kita punya penerima bantuan yang cuman punya satu tanah, dalam itu satu sertifikat, tapi punya 3 rumah di situ gitu. Jadi makanya kami punya tanda tangan. Jadi di sini ditandatangani oleh pemilik tanah, pemilik rumah. Jadi dan juga dengan kepala dusun, disetujui dengan kepala dusun, bahwasanya mereka benar adalah penduduk di dusun ini.
Once all that is established, the beneficiary is established, we're able then to identify contractors to come in and construct. We are working with the American Red Cross for the provision of water and sanitation for the permanent shelters. One of the biggest challenges we've had is in relation to land ownership. It's important to the Canadian Red Cross that there is security of tenure. That means when people are given a house, no one can evict them from that house in the future. The houses, for instance, themselves are, although they were designed by a professional, the designs were developed by the community, discussed with the community, and as you can see that they are a traditional structure, approximately 45 square meters, have a traditional porch at the front.
atelun gembira kamu menduk rumah tinggal di barak kamu lamujin angin anu sakit-sakit. Tapi syukurlah alhamdulillah kamu duklah ka siaplah rumah awak PMI Granada.
Transitional shelter program was originally designed to help people who were living in tents in the aftermath of tsunami as a bridging solution until the permanent houses are built. The Canadian Red Cross is an implementing partner for Federation in this project. So far, Canadian Red Cross has completed over 1,800 houses in 3 different districts in Aceh. We have also been given additional 1,000 houses for the people who are currently residing in government barracks and host families in order to repatriate them to their original villages. Once the transitional shelters are completed and the family has moved in, these are then handed over to the beneficiaries themselves. So in many cases, we're predicting that it's going to be turned into either a shop or a secondary home for an extended family. But in a lot of cases, it will serve as a means of livelihood. Canadian Red Cross is also providing communities with munasas, which are the community halls. And a munasa is a central place in any community where you normally have meetings. Sometimes it also serves as a prayer call. Any major community activity is always conducted in Manasa. Canadian Red Cross is providing communities with materials to rebuild these facilities. We are also providing them with generators as an emergency electricity program.
There are about 1,000 IDPs who are living in the Lampasi and King camps. They're staying here, they're barracks basically. We call barracks TLC, Transitional Living Center. They will stay here until their permanent housing is ready and they can move. So our Watsan work in these camps is, generally speaking, we call this emergency interventions because we're addressing urgent Watsan needs that come up in these camps. Right now, we're serving about 14 TLCs, and the number of IDPs would be between 6,000 and 7,000. We work in Aceh Besar and Aceh Jaya, in 2 locations in Aceh Jaya, Lamno and Chalang. What we do is we come to the camps and we try to prioritize what needs to be done, and then we make improvements to the Watsan facilities in order of what the most urgent needs are. So for example, in Lampasi Tiga camp, where we are now, they had a water supply problem. We installed this bladder. This is one of our first projects here. It's just a 5,000 liter bladder. We have a cooperation with UNICEF actually, who delivers the water every day. This is another one of the wells that we rehabilitated. We repaired the rings and put the cover and clean and disinfect the well. We also installed these drains for the wastewater from this well because it's used as an area not just for washing but also for preparing food. When we started our projects here in Watsan, we worked together with the PMI, but traditionally the PMI, the Indonesian Red Cross, haven't been involved in water and sanitation work at all. Their main focus is related to health. We spend a lot of time on actually working with sphere standards. That's really important, in a post-disaster context to understand when you come into a situation like this, how to prioritize water and sanitation needs. And sphere standards are, a really great tool to guide your decision making, and the PMI didn't have any experience with that. We worked a lot on that with all of the interns. That's something that they're going to take back to their branch offices, and in the future they'll have at least a stronger starting point. Our software program for water and sanitation in Aceh is now operational in about 14 camps. So Watson software is basically composed of community management of the Watson facilities, hygiene promotion in the camps, and gender. FAST stands for Participatory Hygiene and Sanitation Transformation. It's basically a methodology to help the communities improve their environment and to manage their water and sanitation facilities, particularly to prevent diarrheal diseases. FAST program, it basically goes through a series of steps like problem identification, problem analysis, and then planning for solutions. FAST methodology is highly participatory, which means we use a lot of tools like community mapping, community storytelling, and lots of visual aids. So the visual aids are really important to illustrate the main points of the FAST, like how fecal-oral diseases are transmitted and how we can prevent the spread of those diseases, and to illustrate the differences between good and bad hygiene behavior. The two groups that we're training today, there are 25 participants, and they are from two of the TLCs that we work in Aceh Besar, Walubi and Kadin TLC. So these two TLCs were identified earlier on in our program through our risk assessment tool as being two camps that are, high priority to receive the FAST training, because both of the camps were exhibiting a really high incidence of environmental and sanitation problems and other issues like unhygienic conditions of the latrines and problems with excreta disposal and hand washing practices, lots of other problems that basically really increases their vulnerability to diarrheal diseases. After the 3-day FAST training, this group of participants, they're going to have all of the knowledge that they need to make really important positive changes in the environment and their barracks.
In the short term, the Canadian Red Cross Livelihoods Program focused on responding to the immediate needs as identified by our communities. The Canadian Red Cross Livelihoods Program has provided support to 3 very important religious celebrations here in Aceh: Hari Raya, Eid al-Fitri, and Magang. All of these events are really important in terms of the culture here and the religious celebrations that people have. The Magang celebration here is something that happens 2 days before the fasting month begins, and it's a time where all of the families get together and eat meat. And this is based on the idea of trying to fortify themselves physically and spiritually before they begin the difficult 30 days of fasting required for Ramadan. It's also seen as shameful if families don't have the means to buy the meat. So for both 2005 and 2006, we provided buffaloes and cows to communities in Aceh Jaya and Aceh Besar so that they can celebrate this very important day and not enter into the fasting month feeling at a loss or shameful. An example of another type of activity that we have engaged in the past is support to a women's choir in Lamno. This is a traditional choir with performances based on Quran readings and was active before the tsunami. It was identified pretty early on after the tsunami that they would like to be able to perform again, and our livelihoods program gave them support in terms of uniforms and equipment. In addition to this preserving the culture of Aceh, this is also a livelihoods activity that brings them a small amount of income because they perform at religious ceremonies and celebrations. The CRC has also provided some support to children's activities, including educational activities. One of the things that we did in Lamno was provide some transitional schools until the permanent schools could be built in order that the children could continue their education while waiting for the permanent schools to be built. In addition to that, we've also supported children's soccer club so that they can still engage in sports activities. Those activities have been our immediate response. Our longer-term livelihood strategy is focusing on more sustainable activities to allow the communities and the families to resume their daily activities to the extent or beyond the extent that they had previous to the tsunami, so that they can once again be vibrant communities and stand on their own, to ensure also that after the NGOs and agencies have left, the communities will still thrive and carry on.
Program Disaster Preparedness dari Palang Merah Kanada itu bekerja untuk memberikan semacam peringatan dini mengenai adanya suatu bahaya melalui komunikasi radio. Sistem peringatan dini melalui komunikasi radio ini dimaksudkan untuk memberi peringatan kepada masyarakat yang berisiko terhadap bencana supaya dapat menghindari kemungkinan terjadinya korban yang lebih banyak. Sistem komunikasi radio ini yang sudah nanti dipasang di hampir semua cabang PMI di Provinsi Nat, Sumatera Utara dan Nias, ini nanti akan disampaikan kepada masyarakat yang berisiko terhadap bencana melalui program yang kita sebut dengan Integrated Community-Based Risk Reduction. Kemudian sekarang kita sudah melakukan instalasi stasiun radio di sekitar 10 kantor cabang PMI dan PMI Nat, Provinsi Nat, dan juga kemudian kita memberikan pelatihan terhadap operator radio yang akan melaksanakan tugas komunikasi radio ini. Dari sini kita mulai, BMG itu menerima informasi dari internasional, kemudian semuanya alat komunikasi yang masuk, kemudian disampaikan kepada baik melalui media TV, melalui radio, dan langsung sampai ke provinsi. Dari provinsi inilah ada nanti PMI nanti akan menyampaikan ke semua cabang-cabang. Sistem komunikasi radio ini terpasang, nanti kita akan melanjutkan apa yang kita sebut dengan program keberlanjutan daripada sistem peringatan dini ini, yaitu dengan melanjutkannya melalui program Integrated Community-Based Risk Reduction, yaitu dengan membentuk kelompok masyarakat siaga bencana. Dalam program Early Warning System ini, Palang Merah Kanada bekerjasama dengan Federasi Palang Merah Hong Kong, Palang Merah Australia, dan Palang Merah Spanyol. Ketika semua sistem komunikasi radio ini sudah diinstalasi, akan memberi manfaat kepada masyarakat dalam hal penerimaan informasi mengenai suatu kemungkinan terjadinya bencana gitu.
Kalau menurut pendapat saya sih, kalau kita lihat perkembangannya dari 2 tahun setelah tsunami, dibandingkan dengan negara-negara lain yang juga mungkin pernah kena bencana, perubahan dan rehabilitasi serta rekonstruksi di Aceh itu termasuk berjalan dengan cepat. Karena saya berpikir masyarakat Aceh punya semangat untuk berjuang, untuk bertahan hidup, dan itu membantu mereka untuk bisa kembali kepada keadaan normal dan kondisi normal. Dan saya sangat optimis bahwasanya masyarakat Aceh insya Allah akan bisa menjadi seperti sebelumnya, gitu, menjadi lebih baik, menjadi lebih bersemangat, dan menjadi masyarakat yang lebih sejahtera.
Waalaikumsalam Allah.